Hi everyone, I'm Tiffany DaVanzo, or Tiff Draws Anatomy on Sketchy, and in today's lesson we're going to be talking about musculature. We're going to be drawing the muscles of the face one by one, starting with that base drawing we created last time, and we'll discuss how each of them affect our facial expressions and their main function as we go. So let's get started. So in today's lesson we're going to be talking about muscular anatomy of the face. Last time we talked about the skeletal anatomy and we drew the skull, and we're going to go ahead and build on that by drawing the muscles of the face. A few basic things to know about muscles are they're shaped like long spindles and their only function is to contract. And when they contract and fire, they can reduce their length by half. One point of the muscle is always attached to a fixed point, and then the other end is attached to something that can move, like skin or another muscle. So you're going to have a one-directional pull of your muscles. So what I've gone ahead and done is draw half of the face so we can see our muscles that we'll be drawing. And then we're just going to go through them one by one today and kind of talk about the skeletal landmarks, and also a couple times you'll be pulling out your mirror or referencing back to your reference photo to get the shape of the muscles. So let's go ahead and start with this circular muscle around the eye, and that's called the orbicularis oculi. And it's a sphincter muscle, which means its main function is to close your eyes, and is also partially responsible for squinting. At the corner of the eye here, you'll see it's interrupted a little bit by this ligament, and that's what holds your eye to the bone. And let's see here. So to start, we're going to draw just kind of a wonky circle. And it's larger than your orbit, so it's going to go up over the frontal bone. And then it's going to hang down onto the zygomatic bone and the maxilla here. And because we're drawing today based on someone whose eyes are open, I'm going to leave a little opening here. And to do that, I'm going to pull out my paper here and just kind of give myself a rough opening around her eye. If the eyes were closed, this muscle would look almost completely closed. And of course, if you're working digitally, this is going to be easy. You just turn on and off the layers as you need them. So these muscle fibers are circular. And then on the outer edge, the lateral edge, there's some crossover. And now if you can see where the eyelid creases are, we would go ahead and shade in a little more depth there. And I can guess at that, or I can reference back if I can see it through my layers. And go ahead and give that muscle some extra shading right there where it's part of our eyelid. Okay, so that's the basic shape of our orbicularis oculi. And I guarantee at some point in this lesson, I'm going to call it the orbicularis oris because that's the muscle around the mouth. So it's the oculi. It's just one of those slip of the tongues you do. Okay, so the next muscle we're going to do is the frontalis. And the frontalis actually does not attach to bone. It attaches to the orbicularis oculi here around that where the eyebrow is. And then it fades off into this flat sheet of connective tissue called an aponeurosis at the top of your head. So on the top of your skull, you have no muscle. It's just a flat sheet of connective tissue that connects the muscles of the front of your head to the back of your head. So when we're drawing this frontalis muscle, it's going to fade off into this sheet of white. And the frontalis muscle's main job is to contract up and raise your eyebrows, and it also raises up the orbicularis oris. So the shape of it is, it's a kind of a paired structure. And then where we can see this bone and where you can feel it on your face, that rim around your orbit before it dives back to be your temple. Here's your temple. So before it dives back there, that's going to be the border for our frontalis muscle. And I'm not going to take it all the way up to the top of the skull because that's where it's changing. And it's okay to overlap your orbicularis oculi. I've already called it oris, haven't I? I'm sure I have. Because those fibers become interconnected. Okay, so the next muscle we're going to talk about is the procerus, and it's continuous with the frontalis, and it's this little triangle-shaped muscle above our nose. And when it contracts, it pulls down your eyebrows. Okay, so now we're going to talk about this muscle here. This is called the corrugator supercilii, and it is rather small, and it attaches to the frontal bone here, and it's deep to your orbicularis oculi muscle, and then it runs up and passes through it, kind of interweaving. And then it attaches to your skin right here above your eyebrow, right in your eyebrow region. And you can probably guess what its job is. When it contracts, it pulls your eyebrow down towards your nose. So it's the muscle that's responsible for the little lines between your brows here. So I'm just going to kind of lightly fade it in. I'm looking beneath my drawing here to where I can see where the frontal bone ends and the nasal bone is. And I'm just going to give an indication of it there. If you're working digitally, you could do something like put this on another layer, set it to multiply or something to be able to see through and see it. And then I'm just going to kind of rough up the edges here with some little circles to indicate that it attaches to the skin. This is the muscle that they're going for first, usually in Botox. Okay. So now we're going to get to the orbicularis oris. And that's a similar muscle to the oculi around your eye, in so much as that it's a sphincter muscle, and it has 3 actions. It can protrude the mouth, tightly close the lips, or pull back against the teeth. So if you try that looking in a mirror, it's basically making a kissy face, pinching your lips tight the way you do when you're frustrated, or pulling them back against your teeth, kind of like when you're grimacing. So it has a lot of functions in addition to just closing the mouth. And it runs from the bottom of the nasal opening here down and around to your chin. The point it ends at your chin, if you feel it on yourself, is right where you have that plane change from below your bottom lip to your chin, right where the light hits that plane change. And a lot of the next muscles we're going to be talking about insert into the orbicularis oris. And it's also my least favorite muscle to draw. There's something scary about it. I never like looking at it when I'm having to draw facial muscles. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say about that one before we skip on. No, okay. All right, so the next muscle we're going to draw is this one right here, and it has a really unique name. So this is the levator labii alique nasi, and it comes from, it's a sneering muscle. It's going to pull your upper lip up, and so it attaches right here on the maxilla near the nasal bone, and then it comes down and around. If you lift up, you want to lift and check out where your nostrils are. It's going to come right around under them and then attach here into the orbicularis oris. And the next muscle we're going to talk about is another levator, and it's called the levator labii superioris, and it's kind of an inverted triangle shape here, and also helps make a sneer. So it comes from the maxillary bone here underneath the orbicularis oculi. It gets kind of old saying those muscles over and over. I might say mouth muscle, eye muscle, but that's what they are. And again, it inserts more medially. Okay, so now we're going to talk about these two muscles, these diagonal muscles that insert on the zygomatic bone here, and they're called zygomaticus major and zygomaticus minor, and they are the smiling muscles, so they're the ones that are going to help lift the corner of your mouth up. So the minor muscle as you might guess, is smaller and more medial. It kind of almost runs straight into the edge of the oculi muscle. And then the major inserts farther along the zygomatic bone and comes down closer to the corner of the mouth. And they have a little tendinous attachment, so I'm leaving a little bit of white as I shade them in. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the levator anguli oris, and it has a similar function to the zygomatic muscles in so much that it also lifts, it's one of the smile muscles and is lifting your lips up. So it is a little bit harder to see. It's deeper, and it's, did I draw it on the other side? I don't even have it drawn in here. It's right here. And that's the levator anguli oris. Okay, so now we're going to draw this little muscle here, which is a horizontal muscle. But before we can do that, it attaches into the parotid gland here. So I'm just going to give an indication of where the parotid gland lies. On your face, if you go right on your jaw and feel that angle of your jaw, and then reach up towards your ear to that joint, that's your parotid gland. There's a softness you'll feel there. So I'm just going to give an indication of it here underneath the zygomatic bone. And I may want to refer back to my sketch so I can see how much room I have to work with. Okay, so now that I've got the parotid gland drawn in, and the parotid gland makes saliva, I'm just going to draw this little muscle, which is called the risorius. And it actually inserts into the outer coating of the parotid gland. And what its job is it pulls the corner of the mouth back, kind of sideways. So it's called the grinning muscle. Now we're going to talk about the muscles that are underneath your mouth, and they're called the depressor labii and the depressor anguli oris. And they originate from the jaw, and then they come up and insert into the orbicularis oris muscle. And what they do is they pull down the corner of your mouth and lip, and they also contribute to the shape of your chin. So the first one I'm going to draw is the anguli oris, and that's this triangular one, and it comes from the corner of the mouth here, kind of down and around that jawline in a triangular shape. And then the other depressor runs underneath it, and it's more of a rectangular shape, and their fibers kind of interjoin and intermingle a little bit. And they tuck under your chin, so I'm kind of extending over the bone here. Okay, so one of the last muscles we're going to do here, this is the mentalis. And it's a different shaped muscle. It's kind of like a cone, an ice cream cone. And it comes from the mandible near the midline. And then it inserts into the skin on your chin. If you reach inside your mouth, you can actually feel it underneath your lower lip where it's kind of inserting. And its job is to raise the lower lip up, and then it also is responsible for puckering the skin on your chin. Some people have that kind of great pucker on their chin. And then it's also why some people have cleft chins. If there is a space here between these two ends or these two attachments on the skin, you'll get that cleft chin indentation. And again, that's the mentalis. So we're going to do, next we're going to do this muscle. This is the masseter, and it's actually one of the largest muscles on our face. It's responsible for chewing, so it really raises and lowers your jaw. And it's a flat kind of vertical muscle, and it inserts into the bottom of the zygomatic arch here, but it's behind all of these other muscles. So I'm just going to kind of insert it in, and it's behind the parotid gland here. And it runs vertically, so I'm going to put these fibers in like this. And again, I'm going to leave a little bit of white at the top because it has a tendinous attachment. And later on, I would come back and add a little blue and give a little bit more indication as to that. So we can see we've got a little space here. And this is for a muscle that runs even deeper to the masseter called the buccinator. And its job is to puff out your cheeks. It expands. The muscle fibers, when they're relaxed, can expand like when you puff out your cheeks. And when they contract, they are basically your fish face muscles. So they suck in your cheeks. So if you make a fish face and your cheeks are being pulled inwards, that's the buccinator. And it has overlapping fibers. Kind of give it a little interesting look. They crisscross, so they come down and come lower, and then the bottom ones go up. But it's deep, so we're just going to give it an indication here. And the last kind of muscle we can see on the anterior view here is the temporalis. And it's the muscle that is in front of your ear and covers your temple. And it has a kind of tendinous attachment too, so I'm going to leave some white at the end there for that. So that is really all the muscles that you can see from the anterior view of the face. Oh, wait. Spoke too soon. This muscle, this is the nasalis, and it's actually over the cartilage of your nose. So, and it has some little fibers that run up behind your nostril too. And it's the muscle that you use when you're flaring your nostrils. Okay, now that's it for the muscles on the anterior view of the face. So my next step with this would be to clean it up, add some depth where the muscles go underneath each other, add some highlights. If you're working digitally, that's super easy. Just you can throw it on a different layer. And if you're working traditionally like this, just spend a little bit of time giving it some form and remembering the shape of the skull and that the muscles are lying and curving on the shape of the face. And also, you're still going to have some fatty tissue in and around your face underneath these muscles and stuff. So just keep in mind that the muscles aren't the only thing that affect the shape of your face. So I will take a quick break and then I'll come back and I'll show you the muscles on my iPad from the lateral view. So we can talk about a few of the muscles on the face that we can't see from right now. Okay, so now that we've finished our anterior view drawing of the muscles, I wanted to show them to you from the lateral view. Not all of the muscles can you see perfectly from the straight on look, so let's take a look from the side. The main one that's going to jump out to us is going to be the temporalis muscle, and that covers a good part of the side of your head. And the fascinating thing about it is it actually dives underneath your cheekbone, and it connects to that coronoid process of the mandible, which is how it helps control the jaw movement. And then you can see the frontalis well, and you can see how it goes up and fades off into the aponeurosis, which is a non-muscular layer, and connects all the way back here to the muscle on the back of your head called the occipitalis. And then here we can also see the masseter muscle much better. And you can see it's thicker and it's strong, and it's really necessary for all that chewing and jaw movement. And because she's smiling, we can see our smiling muscles in action here, the risorius and the zygomaticus major and minor here. And you can see how they're lifting that corner of the mouth up, along with probably the levator muscles here, as they attach into the orbicularis oris. So I think when you draw somebody who has an expression, you can really almost feel those muscles in action once you've studied them a little bit. And then a really helpful thing to do is just go ahead and give yourself some labels so you can come back to something in the future and double check it or have it for a handy reference. And then just to show you what you can do with your anterior view, here's the original sketch, just a basic outline. This one has a little bit more detail into it. But then once you go ahead and this is just a scan of the sketch I did on the tissue paper, and I've just adjusted the color a tiny bit. It was a dark scan. I liked it, left it. So that we could better see and differentiate between the skull beneath the line drawing there. And then if we add the muscles on top, then we can see how everything matches up well and how everything works together within the outline of the face. But what I like to do then, to take it beyond just a reference drawing, is go ahead and finish out your drawing the way you normally would, digitally or on traditional method if you want. And then when you add the muscle layer back on, either with a layered paper or in digitally through just an actual layer set to multiply, then you've got this beautiful image that both portrays the actual likeness of your subject, but also the anatomy as well. And then again, just to finish it off, if you add in the labels, you've kind of got a great reference for the future. That wraps up lesson 2. I hope you've enjoyed drawing the muscles today, and I hope that it will help you in your future drawings when thinking about what lies beneath the skin. See you next time.